Hey guys, Chris the Ultimate Recycler. Welcome back to the channel, and this is part 2 of a recent experiment we did, a scrapping experiment on 3 identical Acer Veriton computers that were ex-school. They were dropped off here for e-waste. I thought a good chance to see how much value we can get out of them just purely for scrapping, which we did in part 1, and I will link part 1 underneath. We ended up with a total of $11.46 plus $5.60, so about $17 for about an hour's scrapping. This video we're going to improve on that, because as if you saw the last one, you know that I was going to try and eBay some of the parts. Now, they're not particularly valuable computers. They were about 8 years old, so they're outdated. There's not a lot of value in parts, but I'll show you what I've put on eBay. I'll show you what the results, and I'll show you a few things that I've learned along the way as well. But we did increase our value. Now, just to refresh your memory, or for those that didn't see part 1 and couldn't be bothered going to look, these are the items that I scrapped and the weights and the current prices. Now, this was at the end of last year, so about a month back now, and we ended up with $11.46. Things that I didn't think were worth, I did some checking, and they weren't worth reselling: RAM motherboards, mid-grade boards, electric motors, cable, more wire, extruded aluminium heat sinks, and the pressing steel. I put aside parts here which I was going to try and sell. So it was only $5.60 worth of scrap, but we put the slot cards, the CPUs and the power supplies on eBay based from a bit of research. I saw that they were selling, not for a lot, but much better than these prices. So the DVDs I took to the shop, I put $5 each on them because they weren't worth a great deal. And I have actually sold one already. So I'm going to write down $5 each for those DVDs, or the DVD players, or rewriters, I think they're called. So even though they're not particularly valuable, they were worth selling through the shop. So $5 each on those. The hardware, I just allowed shred price, which was only 3 cents. But I sell hardware through the shop, so that will increase that to about 60 cents. I'll show you my calculation shortly. So let's have a look. Oh, the hard drives we are going to address in the second part of this video because I don't sell those. But let's have a look at these ones I put on eBay and show you what they did. Let's start with the CPUs, and these have not sold. So I started them at 50 for the 3. They are i3s. They're quite old. They're not that desirable. I thought by grouping them in a lot of 3, it might interest a computer rebuilder, or someone that actually fixes up computers and sells them as a business. But thinking about it afterwards, I'm more likely to sell older things like this one at a time to someone that just wants an i3 to get an old computer going. They don't want to buy 3, and the buying in bulk incentive probably doesn't quite work for someone that's doing computer rebuilds as a business, because they're going to be looking for i5s, i7s, not i3s. So I started them at 50, I dropped them to 40 after a week, I dropped them to 30 after the following week as buy it nows. 17 views, no watches, and there's been no takers. So that's a bit of a fail. What are they worth? I've seen them sell regularly for $10 each, and again, that's probably just for someone that wants to fix up an old computer and just wants one CPU. Here's the listing. And I offered free postage on these ones. So I've seen them sell regularly for about $10 with free postage, but there's so little money in that. By the time you package them and take them to the post office, I've mentioned a few times that I don't like selling things on eBay for under $50 for the effort it takes to package and post. So I normally wouldn't have even dropped them to 30, but as an experiment for this video, I thought I'd try it. So they were a fail. But let's have a look at my completed items, or my sold items. And we have the slot cards. Again, I started them at 50 a lot. My research showed that they were selling at around about $30 each. But I bulked them together. Same deal. They're probably not new enough or valuable enough for a computer rebuilder to really want them. But someone did grab them for 30 after I dropped the price. There was $9.70 postage involved as well, but they have sold. So I worked out a price when I've allowed for eBay fees. We'll look at that in the notepad shortly. But they've gone, and they've gone for much better than scrap value. And the other one, the power supplies, much the same. They have sold. I started them at 50 for the 3. I dropped them to 40 after a week. I've dropped them then to 30, and they sold. $17 postage. Because eBay calculates the fees on the total figure, so $47, it cost me a bit more in fees for this $30 sale than for the other one. But the point being, they did sell, and I got a lot better than scrap money for them. In hindsight, I wouldn't have grouped these lots in lots of 3. And for the same reason as mentioned, I'm more likely to interest someone on just one who might be doing up an old computer and need a power supply. Sure, you've got to then do 3 lots of postings, but if I get $30 each instead of $30 for the 3, I'm obviously going to be a lot further ahead. So that's probably what I've learned. I think it's only a good idea to group things and aim at a bulk purchaser when it's more valuable stuff that people would be interested in using more than one of. Whereas older computer parts like these, it's probably just better targeting the person that wants one of them. And as I found in my research, these power supplies were selling. So I've probably done myself out a little bit of money there by grouping them, but I did want to sell them all quickly. If it wasn't for this video, I would probably have listed one and just let it sit by it now until it sold, and then copied the listing and do another one, same deal, and we could have made a lot more money. But anyway, that's what experimenting's about. We all learn things, and I like to share it with you so you guys don't have to do the hard yards. But again, we've had success because we have sold it for much more than scrap metal price. So where does that leave us on our notepad? Well, here are the adjusted prices. When I take eBay fees off, we ended up with $24.40 for the slot cards, almost the same for the power supplies. I'm working on $15 for the DVD drives because I've sold one. Look, yeah, they may take a long time to sell, but I have had success in a couple of weeks. The CPUs, I just wrote down an arbitrary figure of 20 because that is achievable if you want to do eBay lower priced items. As I've said before, I don't. But I've seen enough of them sell for $10 that 3 of them we would certainly be able to realise $20, even allowing for fees and free postage. The hardware, as I said, it went up to 60 cents because I sell my hardware in jars, so I don't get my 22 cents a kilo for shred price. I actually get $5 a kilo for a jar full of hardware in the shop, so 0.12 kilos worked out about 60 cents. So we've raised our $5.60 up to $83.40. Yes, for sure, it takes a bit of time to eBay and you do have to package and post, but we've allowed for fees, so certainly that's doable. Really, to boost our bottom line, I guess we allowed for about an hour to scrap all the computers. Let's say an hour to list, say, really only 2 items, or maybe 3. If you're listing them individually, they're easy to relist once one sells because all your description and your photos are pretty much the same anyway. So we've increased our return by a long way for only a little bit more labour. All that's left now, and we'll look at that now, is our hard drives. So let's get those out and work out what we're going to do with them. So what options do we have with hard drives when I've mentioned that I don't sell them, even just for scrap, because I do want to protect the data that's on them? As an e-waste recycler, I have an obligation to my clients to make sure that there's no chance of any data getting out there, and reformatting them isn't a secure way because it can still be recovered, I believe. If you know of any good ways of reformatting a hard drive that is secure, let me know, because it's going to be an option with bigger hard drives. These ones were only 500, I think 500 gig. Yeah, so they're not going to be valuable, certainly not valuable enough to go to the trouble of trying to reformat. So what options do we have? Well, I'm going to pull them apart because I want to get the magnets out of them, and I think I can sell the magnets. That gives me a bit of value. They're mostly aluminium, cast aluminium. So if we scrap them, we're going to have some nice cast aluminium, but it won't add up to very much. There's only a tiny little board there, so there's not much value there either. I guess the easiest way to get rid of them safely is probably hit them with an axe. Really disable them. Maybe drill a couple of holes through might be another option, but I'm sure if I gave out a big thump with an axe, one hit would render them pretty safe for data recovery. And then they could go as irony aluminium. So at the moment, those three weigh 1.25 kilos. At the moment, the last price I saw for irony aluminium was 70 cents, 700 a tonne. So that works out at around about, I think, 88 cents, or say 90 cents. So we'd get a little bit of a return. They would be safe as far as data goes, and I wouldn't have to deal with them anymore. So that's one option. It may suit you. I'm going to scrap these and see how long it takes us to get clean materials and get the magnets out and whatever else we get, a few little boards. Okay, let's pull one apart and see. If you're doing a few in a row, it would get quicker and quicker. I'll keep an eye on the clock. Now there are Torx bit to get these little screws out. Now sometimes they hide a screw underneath, I'm not sure on this one. Let's just see if the cover will come off. And it feels like there is a screw in the middle somewhere. That's into there. Geez, it took a bit to dig out. Okay, now we should be right. Alright, so we have our top cover, which is a stainless, but it's usually magnetic. Let's try it. Yes, so that's can only go in the normal shred steel, that one. We have the hard drive disc itself, which are often aluminium, but I believe they can be glass. A few more Torx screws to get out. And that's a different size. I've had to find my little Torx screwdrivers. I didn't have a bit for the drill to go the smaller size. So let's undo these to hold the disc in. And we should be able to lever the magnets up here now. They're rare earth magnets, they're neodymium magnets. Some of them are quite large, this one's fairly small, but they're very powerful. So they're quite handy. I'm not sure if I'll be able to sell them or not, but we'll see. And we need to take the reader arm off and the other magnet. Now the disc can come out. Oops, that sounds like it's an aluminium one. I guess the easiest way to tell is just try the side cutters. If it's glass, it will shatter. But this one's definitely metal. So by bending it, I'll probably just fold it in half. It will then basically render it useless as far as data goes, and I can throw it in my aluminium bucket. Okay, there's not much left at all on this side. We've just got the little drive motor, which we'll access from the other side. So we'll now take the circuit board off from this side. So we have a little board there that can go in our mid-grade boards, but it hardly weighs anything. To get the motor drive thing out of this side, we're just going to have to hit it with a punch. It should just all push out this side. And that's left us with the windings of the motor in here. I think they should just lever off. There we go. We could probably stick that back in there and throw it in with our electric motors. I don't think it's going to come out because it's now magnetically attached, so they can go in with the electric motors. We don't have much left on here now. We've just got to get a little bit of stuff out of here, and we can pretty much call it pure. Sometimes there's a few other posts to punch through, but on this one it looks to be all just cast. I can't see any other impurities. We could always try our neodymium magnet just to see if there's any other steel there, and I've got nothing at all. So it didn't take very long to scrap that at all, and we've got a couple of really good magnets. We've just got to get this little last bit out, which I think will punch through from this side. There we go. That was easy. So done. Now we can weigh it up and see what we got. Well, that was a very easy scrap out. Easily under 5 minutes. In fact, the second two I did in about just under 8 minutes, including folding the discs. So they're now rendered inoperable, and the data is perfectly safe. They can go in my aluminium bin. Let's weigh up and see what we got, and we'll price out the magnets. I did notice though that these readers actually have a coil of copper wire at one end, which I think might, there we go, breaks out just like that. So they can just go in with our number 2 copper or insulated lacquered copper wire. So we'll take those out. The rest of the reader arm can probably just go in the dirty aluminium, because it's mostly aluminium. There's a little bit of a circuitry board there. and some of it's magnetic, but it's mostly aluminium. I don't know that there's any precious metal in those. And we have a few little bits of circuitry and some gold coloured pins, but look, I'm not going to get too excited about gold pins. I don't save any of that. I don't believe it's economical or even close to economical to try and salvage it. It's just going in my e-waste bucket. These little discs are actually stainless steel, and all the hardware, all the screws are actually stainless steel. And I wouldn't normally put these in with my jar of hardware I sell, because people buying jars of hardware typically do not want very tiny Torx screws. They're not really that useful in the shed. Considering I sell a lot of hardware to farmers and they don't use microscopic Torx screws, so I'll just put them in with stainless steel. We have electric motors, we have cast aluminium, we have just shred, 3 circuit boards, dirty aluminium, magnets, aluminium. All right, let's weigh it up and see what it adds up to. Righto guys, let's finish this video up with dueling notepads, lots of figures, a bit of maths, and basically an appraisal of scrapping out hard drives and computers. All right, so what have I got here? Let's go through it. The hard drives, I've weighed them all out. It got quite microscopic as far as weights, and I couldn't even weigh the copper, little lacquered copper coils. They wouldn't even register. So we're talking very, very minor amounts of money here. The whole lot of the scrap from the hard drive added up to $1.50. The best being the cast aluminium, these basic frames. That's by far the best. Before we go on to the rest of it, $1.50 worth of scrap. If we sold them to Ewaste bin, if you didn't worry about the data, you'd get $1.30 without any labour at all, just packing them in milk crates and taking them down. If you wanted to sell them to the scrapyard as iron aluminium and perhaps hit them with the axe, you could get 88 cents. So the economics isn't around what scrap metal you get out of them, but I was after the magnets. So $5 per set of magnets. So I've got 2 for $5. I'm going to see how they go in the shop. 3 hard drives give me $15. So that's where the value is for me. If I can't sell them, or if they're so slow to sell it's not worth the while, I won't bother scrapping the hard drives. I will just thump them hard with an axe and send them off to the scrapyard at 70 cents a kilo. I don't know if Ewaste Ben will take them when they've been hit with an axe or drill holes drilled through them. I'm not exactly sure how he passes them on. So if you happen to be watching Ben, let us know that, because obviously that's 20 cents a kilo extra, and as long as we beat them up enough that the data's safe, then I don't mind who I sell them to, but I just need to make sure that they can't be the data can't be accessed. So that's the bottom line. I'm expecting that I'll be able to sell these magnets quite well. They're very, very powerful. I'm going to sell them in pairs. They are actually really, really good to screw to your back of your workbench for sticking screwdrivers on and that sort of stuff. They're quite low profile. I was talking to someone who wanted to get old nails picked up from his driveway, and he was going to screw a lot of them to just a flat piece of timber and have it like essentially a nail broom, and it just picks them all up because they are very powerful. So I think I'll sell them okay. We'll see how we go there. Rightio, so let's boil all that down onto this other notepad. Instead of our $5.60 for scrap metal for this saleable stuff, we have returned $83.40 from what we can sell outright via eBay and through the shop. Then we have the hard drives returning $16.50 for the 3 of them. It's a total of $99.90, which is a huge jump from $5.60, with a bit of labour, but not too much. Then we have the scrap from over the page, which was always going to be scrap from when I pulled the computers apart. So it gives us a total return of $111 for, what did we say, about an hour to scrap the computers, maybe about an hour to eBay the stuff. I reckon that'd be a lot less than that once you started eBaying regularly, and 15 minutes to scrap out the hard drives. So pretty good return. And if you do computers regularly, you're going to pick up some which have much better slot cards. You're going to pick up some where maybe the motherboards are saleable. Quite often though, you'll find the power supplies won't be saleable and they'll go to the scrap. So you need to do your research. CPUs, of course, you only have to get some i7s and you're going to have some pretty good dollars, assuming they work. So there's lots of variables in this, but it shows that you can certainly make much better money by parting things out and selling usable parts rather than putting everything in the scrap. Now, I have made a few assumptions in this, guys, as you would realize. I'm assuming that I can sell magnets and keep selling them. I'm assuming that the DVDs will sell. The one that I sold might have been a fluke. But I think the whole point is that it doesn't take very much money to sell something to beat scrap price. And I think we're always better looking to pass something on rather than breaking it down to just its scrap metal value. Of course, it depends how you can market stuff, and I have an advantage having the shop, of course. That's how I can sell hardware and everything like that. So there you go. I think it was a worthwhile exercise. Hopefully you've learned something from this. I certainly have. I think it's a good way to market computer gear through eBay by focusing on who's likely to buy it. Older stuff might be more of a one-off. More modern stuff might do really well in groups. And we need to do our research to see what actually does sell, of course. So we've all learnt something from this. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video as well, and hopefully you're enjoying my channel. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.